Welcome to the Bird Bearers podcast. This space was created to uplift the voices of the Caribbean parent. There is a lack of bird stories that highlight the experiences of parents from the Caribbean who are charting their own path. Both men and women who have chosen to deviate from the expected route by deciding to birth outside of the system. A system that continues to harm birthing mothers and dishonor the sacredness of birth. Here we share our stories of empowered birth, trusting that our stories will empower mothers as they prepare to transition from maidenhood into the wild world of motherhood. I am your host, Ray Voze, and I am the bird bearer. Welcome, Adafih, to the Bird Bearer podcast. It's very good to have you here on the podcast with me. And I am extremely excited to hear your bird story. I heard just a few snippets of it, but I'm looking forward to hearing it in its fullness. So I am going to open the floor to you, and you can start wherever you feel most comfortable.
Greetings to all of your viewers, and I give thanks to you having me here, inviting me to your space and to hear my story and how everything went with me birthing my daughter and bringing her outside. My journey through pregnancy started with my partner messaging me one day during the day randomly saying, "You want to get pregnant tonight?" And I just replied, yeah, because he does numerology and he did his thing, and he was going by the moon, and he found that it was the perfect time because he also tracked my cycle, which is funny because I didn't even track my cycle the way he did it. I didn't even track my ovulation timings the way he did it. So he had everything in check, and he knew that this was the perfect time to consciously conceive or bring back an ancestor. So that was how we got started on this birthing journey. And that was exciting. Just, a lot of times you hear stories of, we together and we got pregnant. So it was really a new experience for me because I've heard about conscious conception before. So for me to experience it firsthand, it was amazing. And then we just continue into me becoming pregnant. And when I became pregnant, I had to do a lot of reflective work because I had an eating disorder very early on in life that was tied to some childhood trauma of sexual abuse that I didn't even pinpoint prior to getting pregnant, and I'm a social worker. So I didn't even pinpoint the fact that my trauma was tied to my weight loss and body dysmorphia issues. I didn't realize that until I became pregnant, and I had to do work with getting comfortable with seeing my body swell, seeing my body grow. Because yes, I'm pregnant. Yes, I know I'm pregnant, but being fat and having a baby growing inside of you, the physical of it is almost similar. That physical appearance of it in the very early stages of pregnancy is almost similar. So I had to do a lot of self-work, and that is where I used the herb and I used psychedelics. So during my first trimester, I had to do some psychedelic work. I took a trip and I went in with the intention of removing that fear of gaining weight, dealing with the trauma of seeing my body expand so that I can push forward or continue in this pregnancy journey healthy, because I felt like, and people in my environment was telling me that if I am not careful, I would hurt my baby because I'm focusing on my appearance so much. They almost made me feel as if I was too vain, but that wasn't the case. Trauma works in a very funny way, and some people get it and some people don't. And something got it. It just seemed as if I was being very vain, and it was something that I could have shaked easily, but it wasn't. And I had to, I felt after the fact that me doing the mushroom work was so, so necessary to come to terms with the fact that, and I wrote this during my trip on paper, so that's why I could repeat it verbatim, that I am not fat, I am having a baby. And I wrote that over and over during that while I was speaking. I wrote that over and over on a paper. I'm not fat, I'm having a baby. I'm not fat, I'm having a baby. And coming out of that session of using the psychedelics was when I became comfortable to push forth in my pregnancy and just be okay, well, my belly going to swell, let it all hang out. I started enjoying food because prior to that, seeing that I had that trauma of not wanting to regain weight, I did not enjoy food in this manner since I was about 18. And when I became pregnant, I was 33. So I was very much on a strict diet from 18 straight till 33. So I wasn't able to enjoy food the way everybody enjoys food. They feel to eat this, they eat it. So being pregnant after doing the mushroom work, I was able to enjoy food, to enjoy seeing my belly expand, to feel this life growing inside of me. It was just amazing. And to me, that's the importance of, the psychedelics, because I also use the herb marijuana or cannabis if you fancy, the fancy. So let's say cannabis. I also use cannabis a lot during my pregnancy. From start to end of my pregnancy, I used cannabis. I could not have used it the manner in which I would. So maybe on a given day, if I smoke 2 spliff during my pregnancy, 1 spliff would have been broken up into like 3 to 4 different smokes, because it was like, okay, I'm good. I already dealt with the fact that I am nauseous. That feeling is gone, and I get it. So using the herb in that way was it was a next big thing for me, because most of the people within the community, the ganja community, we speak about using marijuana medicinally. I hear a lot of chatter in the grapevine about using marijuana medicinally, but you rarely see people come forth and say, this is how I used it medicinally. You more see them using it recreationally, to balance and these sorts. So I didn't see anybody within the community coming forth to say, okay, this is how I use the herb medicinally. And I think that is something that needs to change. We need to start putting it into practice. If we're feeling nauseous, you use the herb. You have a headache, use the herb, because we are advocating for the herb. So we have to put it to practice. Anyway, I did that and it was amazing. I did not take any what is the name of the medication they give you for when you have this substance? Gravol. Right. The reason I didn't take Gravol was, and I opted to use the herb, was because my partner did some research and he found that they removed Gravol off of the market for pregnant women in Canada because Gravol was linked to some birth defects in children probably 5 years after. So they removed it from giving it to patients in Canada. And I was like, you see this? As advocate for the herb about being medicinal, let me put it into practice. And I did just that. And even though we speak about it being medicinal, I was amazed every single time. I will feel nauseous and I will take a pill and the feeling gone. I was amazed every single time. And that is funny because we advocate and we say it's this powerful plant, but we don't really put it into practice in that aspect. So I was amazed every single time where I will feel nauseous, I'll take a pill, and I was able to eat. I was just able to feel okay to function.
Yes. So how did your prenatal care look? What kind of prenatal care did you get?
So my prenatal care started with a midwife who was coming home to me because I was very adamant I did not want to be a part of the system. You know, I witnessed so many of my close friends, family who got pregnant and had to go to clinic, and the procedure for clinic within Trinidad and Tobago is not that we have a facility to accommodate all the pregnant women that they are seeing in the morning inside of the facility. So in Trinidad and Tobago, there is a tent, some chairs outside with all the elements, heat, rain, everything. And that is where you have to sit sometimes until you get there for 8 and you're not leaving, sometimes until 1, 2. So I just did not want to be a part of that system.
I just want to say one thing, right? Because you went to Mount Hope, right? You went to, where was your health center, in Mount Hope?
No, Macoya,
right. So the health center in Princestown functions differently. There's no tent. So there's no tent, and we all fit inside. But I don't know if it's based on, if every time that I've been there, the amount wasn't like excessive, so they were able to fit everybody, but it is a long wait on hard benches. So I don't know if different health centers in different areas function, like their infrastructure may be different.
I can't speak to that. I can only speak to the Macoya Health Center.
Right, good. So the Macoya one, that was your experience there at Macoya,
yes,
right?
That was my experience at Macoya. So for my first 3 months within my first trimester, I had a private midwife come home, and she will do all the little checks, and it was very comfortable. I felt a sense of empowerment. That's the best word I could describe it. Just being outside of the system and functioning and thriving, because you know the system, they teach us that we cannot function without them. Yes. That's how we are socialized, that we can't function without them. So I felt this sense of empowerment. Just, you know, I'm pregnant, I'm not in the system. At home, I'm a bed, the midwife here. I was feeling so empowered, you know, and also having my partner a part of every step of the way. Because within our culture as well, we tend to segregate the males from part of the birthing process. So that was also very much empowering. However, my midwife, she was also trying to get pregnant at the time, and she had to leave Trinidad to go back to the States. And it was at that time I sought advice from one of my very close sisters. I don't know if you know her.
I wonder who is that boy?
Her name starts with R, surname B. Sounds familiar anyway. I got advice from yourself, and you know, you did advice because of your experience prior with your first birthing experience. And it was the second birthing experience, you know, based on your experience, you advised that join the clinic, not so much for the medication and the treatment, but to be listed within the system, because that after the birth would have been problematic to get her registered. So that is why I registered into Macoya Health Center, so that there was record that because I always planned, even though in the earlies I was not sure, I was not the idea of birthing my baby home was one that it wasn't something cement It wasn't for sure, but it was something I knew that I wanted to do. So I was vocalizing it a lot. But you know, if to do something like free birth, birthday baby, home, but all these things, it's something that you have to be truly sure about. You can't be flip-floppy about it. You have to do your research and accept all the responsibilities that come with birth, and the 50% that is good, the 50% that may be bad. You have to be willing to accept everything. So I even had to do self-work to bring myself up to that point where I was, okay, I'm not just talking this. I put an action behind it. And that's probably wrong in my 5th month. So from month 1 to month 5, I was just talking it. I wasn't sure within self that this is what's going to happen for sure. I was just talking it. And during that period from month 1 to month 5, with advice from yourself as well, I went deep diving into the Free Birth Society podcast and listening to these women out the road who they're doing it every day. These white women, they are doing it every day all around the world. And I told myself, if them could do it, who is me? That was my exact words. If them could do it, who is me? So now I started focusing all my energy in reminding myself of where I came from, the strength and the power that I came from, and that I can do this and I am going to do it. So it was a constant mantra over and over. I had to replay to build that confidence within self that this is something I could do, because, I mean, growing up, you always say pregnancy is 1 foot in, 1 foot out the door. And that 1 foot out the door was the scary part, that I didn't want to accept responsibility on self. So it had me between 2 minds. I was in a place of cognitive dissonance, they call it. Am I saying the right term? Right, yes. I had 2 contradicting thoughts in my head, and I had to do a lot of work to get rid of that. And when I finally, it was on a new moon or a full moon, either of the 2, my partner drew a milk bath for me, and I had these plans on wanting to have a water birth. So I sat in the milk bath and I started making the noises that I assume, because I've never been pregnant before. So I started just making noises and gruntings and different movements, and started envisioning myself actually in the full swing of things, bringing forth my ancestor right here in this house. And I was like, okay, this is what's going to happen. And it was at that time I started doing research on the different materials I would need to gather to have a safe home delivery. And yeah, the decision was concrete. It wasn't concrete from month 1, but it was something I was focalizing on. And you know, they say if you say something enough, you might start to believe it.
Yeah.
Self-fulfilling prophecy. I think that is what happened in my case.
And how was it received? How was that? Because you were saying that you talked about it a lot. How was it received by people around you, like your parents, your partner? Like, how was it received? Were people...
If they accepted it. All right, so I did speak about it a lot, but I was careful of who I spoke about it to. So if I did tell someone about it, I knew firsthand that they were vibing along that same frequency, that they will show the support and not put doubt. Anybody that I thought would have put doubt or fear into my mind, I did not share that news with them. So I didn't tell my mother or my aunt or my cousins who were pregnant too at the time, because 4 of us had children last year. So I didn't tell any of them who would have put fear into my mind that, girl, this is your first child, you're crazy. 1 or 2 people I thought would have vibed that way, and that was the response that I got from them. And I decided, okay, if they ask me again, which they did, I will just tell them, yeah, I'm going to the hospital, just to pacify some people. Yeah, I go into the hospital, but I knew that I wasn't. I knew that I wasn't. So I was very mindful of who I shared that information with, because fear is something that could creep in and just paralyze you, especially when you're at that stage of you have this life going in you and you're already so fearful of what if something happening, because a lot of things during pregnancy, that time is a great unknown period, you know. It is a big unknown. So I was already so fearful about that. And I also had within my tribe, I had a very close sister of mine who had a very good pregnancy, healthy pregnancy, went in to give birth to her daughter, and both she and her daughter passed away. So that was something that traumatized me a lot of my days during my pregnancy, just thinking, what if this happened to me? What if this happened to me? So I truly didn't want anybody to bring back that fear into me, because it's very, very easy to allow your mind to wander while you're pregnant. Even when you're not pregnant, it's very easy to allow your mind to go far and dark places. So I was mindful of who I shared that information with.
And your partner, how did your partner take it?
He was so open to it, because by me choosing to go this route, it means that he had a front row seat to everything, because as I stated prior, the system in Trinidad and Tobago tends to remove the male counterpart from the birthing experience. And there are stipulations like, if you don't go to Lamar's class, you can't come into the birthing room, which is crazy, because you telling me I am going through something, my body is going through something, and I can't have support of the one person that I want there. I don't need that support. That's true. Even though I think they trying to change that law right now. Yeah. That was at the time of my experience. So my partner was very, very excited that he got to have a front row seat, because this is his third child, and the first two, he was isolated from the experience. So he was very, very excited. He was present at every single thing, everything, every clinic visit, everything. He was very upfront and center.
All right. Well, take us to the day.
The day when everything started.
Yeah.
All right. So leading up to that day, I had a bloody show probably like a day prior, a day and a half prior. So when nothing didn't happen after that bloody show, I started crying, saying, I'll be pregnant forever. She would never come. Very, very irrational, but hey, you can't blame her. But yes, so I had a bloody show, and that was probably like Wednesday. No, that was Tuesday. So Wednesday, I was just getting some tightness in the belly. I thought it was Braxton Hicks, because I got Braxton Hicks like 2 weeks prior, and it felt almost similar. So I ignored that feeling on Wednesday. I just said, man, that's Braxton Hicks. Nothing ain't happening. Bam. So Thursday morning now was when, okay, this feeling a little bit different. It coming a little bit stronger. It's still slow. It's still in the very early stages, based on other women experiences, based on the podcast, based on just different information that I would have gathered throughout my journey. It was still very much in the early stages. So I decided to use different pain relieving tactics, I should say, pain relieving techniques. And one of which, because human beings, we naturally have oxytocin built in us. Now, we just need to press certain buttons and it would release itself. And one of those ways is true self-pleasuring. And I did take that page out of your book after listening to your birthing story on the Free Birth Society podcast. And also, I was a very big Grey's Anatomy fan, and there was one episode on Grey's Anatomy where the doctor had a clinic running using masturbation to help ease pain for women during birth. So I remember that as well. And I self-pleasured during some early stages of the contraction, and it worked. And that also surprised me. Everything that was working just surprised me, because we just talk a lot, but we don't really put a lot of things into practice. So when these things worked, I was so surprised. So that worked. And as we entered further into the laboring process, I also used the cannabis to help with the labor pains. That was also a study that I read during my research period, that cannabis was used during what is the word, boy? During traditional midwifery, they used cannabis to help alleviate the pains of laboring. And I remember that article I wrote, so I was already using the herb throughout my pregnancy. So I also put that into practice. And the contractions was coming hot and sweaty. So like, Baba, roll one for me, please. And he did. And that worked as well. And by that time, we were somewhat, I will say, in the middle, because my aunt, she is a midwife of 25 years within the system. She would have labored with all of her nieces, and I was the second to last niece to give birth. I had one other cousin after me who was due for delivery. So in laboring with all the nieces, she came down. When I told her, I'm in contraction, she was in Tobago. Within the hour, she was by my front door. She hopped on a plane and she came down immediately. And she was laboring with me. I did allow her to give me a vaginal inspection. She was trying to sweep, but I did some studies on that as well. And through the Free Birth Society podcast, a lot of information came out on the sweeping of the, oh gosh, Ray, help now. What is the term for it?
I don't know.
Where they put their fingers and they separate the sac from around the walls of the
I don't know what is the proper term for it.
But we know it as sweeping. So she wanted to sweep me, and I refused that. A lot of things during that time of laboring with her there was a lot of back and forth, because as I said, I didn't share my birthing plan with much of my family. So she came into this laboring process with me with the same mind she went into it with my cousins, that, thinking that I was taking the same pathway when I wasn't. And I mean, she had some idea that I wasn't, because prior I asked her certain questions. I was asking certain questions about certain drugs. What was the name of the injection they give to help the womb contract to reduce internal bleeding? What was the vitamin K shot for? I was asking her different things, and she herself was shocked, because she said, it's a first that a pregnant mother is asking these type of questions. Even in the clinic, the nurses was so surprised that I was so informed and was telling them certain things. They were so surprised. So that was even like somewhat of a red flag for me, that we need to take this responsibility back on self. That it just showed that a lot of our queens birthing babies and just putting it on the system. We're not doing research. We're not doing anything of this sort. Everything is just on the doctor. Mm-hmm. Nobody is doing research. So that and all kind of shocked me. Like, even if I didn't plan to go this way, I would have done research, because this is uncharted territories,
Well, it's encouraged. We're not encouraged to do our own research and to know things for ourselves, because we are encouraged to see the medical system and the doctors and the nurses as all knowing. They are the saviors. They know everything. So, you just need to put your life in their hands, and everything will be fine. And I think it's a way that we are also socialized around the medical system and how to look at the medical system. So it's easy for us to just say, okay, I just need to pay and get my ultrasound done. I just need to go for my doctor visits, my clinic visits, and they will let me know whatever. I take my prenatals and and everything is good. You don't really need to do anything. Even when we think about giving the actual birth process, it's like, okay, you just go and they will tell you what to do. And that is actually extremely problematic, because it is making us be even more divided and separated from the that deep inner work that comes with birthing for women, that could take them to a next level. That we losing touch with that, losing touch with our womb because of those things. So yeah.
And even more so where when we go into the system, we have knife hungry doctors who just at any sign of what they would consider complications, because let me tell you, since I have given birth to my daughter, I have heard of at least 3 other sisters of mine getting cut. And when I asked what was the reason, they say he wasn't in the right position. So I had to turn and tell a sister and say, when these doctors give it is a big guesstimation. Like they don't really know. That's why we have children coming 2 weeks after due date and the quote unquote due date, the date of expiration. So they use frivolous terms to intervene unnecessarily for their benefit. And we have a lot of sisters right now just trying to heal from being cut, and to me it's very unnecessarily. Like, even a breech baby could be delivered vaginally, and that is something the medical profession preaches against. That no, if it's breech, you have to get a C-section. But then we have these, give thanks to that. That is the beauty of social media, giving us little snippets and insights to different people, environments around the world. So we see different birthing pages coming to the forefront right now. And you're seeing these women birthing breech babies vaginally is the first time. So now it makes you wonder, what is all these things they've been preaching in us? So a lot of women just taking, okay, my pulse racing, like we have to get cut, because what they do is they use a lot of medical jargon which goes over the head of the civilian. And because you are already in a state of you're in a vulnerable position, you're going through pain, you're afraid because you may not know what's coming, and then they're telling you something could be wrong. When you hear something wrong and you're in that position, that is the first thing you are thinking about. So when they come at you with that authority and they're going to say, I've been a doctor for such and such amount of years, you are going to fall, you are going to be susceptible to it and go through. And that is what I am seeing as a common thread. So a lot of women truly don't know what it feels like to feel the baby kicking, to feel contractions, know what it's like to truly push that baby through your vaginal canal and
even giving birth in the hospital at all. I would say that you still don't get to experience a natural birth, because you don't get to fully explore the experience, and then you have people around you telling you push, push and they're telling you when to push. So you're not really getting to connect with your body, even when you're doing a vaginal birth in the hospital. They're injecting you with things, the chicken things, yeah, catheter. It still takes away from you, because I can tell you from my experience, my first birth and my second birth are vastly different, because my experience in the hospital, like it kind of blurry, but I can tell you everything from my second birth, like in terms of how I felt and feeling myself transition and things like that. I miss that. I don't even remember birthing my placenta in the hospital. They take a lot away from us, and once we put ourselves in their care, it's like we're giving over ourselves. We're giving our autonomy up to them, because once you're there, it's very difficult for you to say no to certain things. And so you're very right. You're very right about what you're saying.
Apart from that, apart from all of what it was indicated, we also have to deal with the culture of the nurses who just harsh and just I would say they laba laba the mouth, and when the term laba laba just means loose. They lack empathy. So I remember the room that, so after I birthed my baby,
don't fast forward. Don't fast forward.
They lack empathy. They lack empathy. And you could take penis, you could take this pain. Those exact words came out of our nurse mouth. Those exact words.
So your aunt is here. She wants to give you a sweep. You've denied it. Your partner on the side there watching everything. Your dog's outside waiting. What happened next?
What happened next was me just truly connecting to my body, as you rightfully say, going inwards, because I wasn't the vocal type during labor. I was very much quiet, and I would sway, I would dance, I would, shake, I would move around the house. And that was something very important, because when you look at the medical system, we aren't able to do all of these things that adds that easier delivery process for us, an easier birthing experience for the mother. Because just being able to do whatever I want made me feel good. It kept me calm. Yes, it was uncharted waters, but I felt in control. I felt like, okay, this pain is unfamiliar, but based on my research, this is what is happening. So even going into birthing our daughter at home, while gathering all the materials, I also had my partner look at a lot of information. At what point do we call for the Western medicine to intervene, because that is something I also catered for, because it was uncharted waters. Yes, I was very solid in my decision to home birth, but I also knew that in pregnancy is that 50%. So I also had my hospital backpack in the event that we encountered a situation of me passing out, or me hemorrhaging, or just me not being responsive, and just being completely out of it. And I had to show him how to decipher between transitioning, what they described on the podcast as transitioning, and me truly needing medical intervention. So that if I told him, oh gosh, I can't do this no more, I didn't want him to just be like, all right, let's go. I told him at that point here, you need to continue motivating me, because that means she is close. So we went over all those bases. So I also had my hospital bag. So it was just a good experience being able to labor home.
How much time would you say passed, like, since you started feeling regular contractions and your aunt came, and how long do you think you were laboring for?
Nothing. I was in labor for 38 hours.
Okay.
I started labor Tuesday morning and my daughter came Saturday afternoon. I was in labor for really, really long.
Okay.
Really, really long. So yeah, that was that. But my partner during labor was able to have him rub my back because we also looked at spinning babies exercise and different there's a whole Lamaze segment on YouTube, different people doing Lamaze class showing you different pressure points that will help alleviate pain during the labor. So I had my partner look at that, so he was able to put pressure when I needed pressure, and really just having him there for that support was amazing. Adding it's an experience. So during that time, Adafih was just doing whatever Adafih wants. On the wall, I went in the shower, and I think the shower was a bit of a wormhole because I thought I was in the shower for 10 minutes. And when I started feeling like, okay, I'm going to pass out because I had the water running extremely hot, my aunt had to come and be like, come out the bathroom, quick, quick, quick. I've been in there for over an hour.
Oh my.
Yeah, I was in there for really, really long. And sometimes when temperatures change within the body and the body already going through the stress, it could shoot up to your head, and that's where that fainty feeling was coming from. So came out of the shower immediately, and I think we went on the ball or some other thing. That's just the beauty of being able to labor home.
Yes.
You could do it. So that was great. When my water bag burst, that was like, whoa, this is happening at Adafih. The ring of fire coming. Feel this water bag burst, legit. I just thought like your water bag bursting, you will feel water trickling between your legs as if you're peeing. My water bag burst as if somebody threw a small water balloon at me and it hit me between my legs. It was that's the best way I can describe it. It was a big splash, just like it was like a balloon came out of me and on my bed. And at that time, yeah, we were on my bed at that time. My aunt and she's like, okay, let's ready to. She said, what you want to do? Because I think she had an idea that I was going to home, but and I told her, you know what I want to do. My exact words, I said, you know what I want to do? Alabi, go and get the birthing kit. I had a big yellow tub with blankets, the umbilical cord, scissors, everything already fully sterilized. The scissors, I couldn't source an umbilical cord clamp, so I had one crocheted, the umbilical cord ties that are very popular right now. I had one crocheted, and that was also a practice session for my partner and me learning how to tie the umbilical cord tie in a safe manner. We had gauze, we had the basin ready to catch the placenta, we had sterilized gloves. Like I had got a lot of resources. I tell her, go get my birthing kit. And when she saw everything, she said, through everything, she said, but child, you ain't bet you ain't easy. That's exactly what she said. She said, you ain't bet you ain't easy. So at that point, her midwifery training kicked in, and we started the process of the intense laboring process. And during that period, I had to advocate for myself, but I don't want to make it seem as if I'm speaking ill of my aunt, because I love her and I respect her and her profession. And I give thanks for the fact that she was being the only child within the family for her generation, and my grandmother being birthed at home, and now a whole generation after I am doing it and she is delivering my daughter. It was a big thing for me. So I don't want to speak illy of her or her profession, but I would say is that I did get an insight into how our medical professionals use certain terms that could scare our birthing mamas into complying. Because I was, after a while of going back and forth, because I recorded my whole birth, whole delivery, everything, full eagle, everything. So there was a part in the video, rewatching it, we are going back and forth like, no, I want to get up on all fours and my back is going against gravity. And the study said this and this and this and a full pain. I'm going through this pain, and this is me now having to remember everything that I was intaking, advocate for myself. And within that, she was like, yes, you do all the research, but I have 20-something years of practice and I'm not even seeing the perineum, and most likely it may rip. Just hearing those terms, after a while, she did allow me to get up because I wasn't letting it go. I was adamant. I'm getting up, it going against gravity, my research showed this is what I want to do. So we was going back and forth, but after a while, I did give in to the way that, she wanted me to birth, because after it's a lot of energy to advocate for yourself and then focus all your energy into what you're truly doing at the moment. So that is why I realized it is very easy for our birthing mamas to just sign away their rights when they're in the medical system. Very, very easy. She did allow me to go on all fours, and then while I was on all fours, she was saying, I'm not even seeing, yada, yada, yada. I'm going on and on and on. And I just was like, okay. I went back on my back for her, and we started that process of, birthing my baby on the back. So
was she coaching you to push?
Was she coaching me to push? Like push, like
telling you when to push?
Okay, so she wasn't coaching me to push. She was telling me that there is a way to push, and she told me how to push. She wasn't saying push. Like when we had got to that point to push, she said, okay, you're going to feel to push through your vagina, push through your posterior, your rectum, and bear downwards. And you need to use your pain to bring forth this child. So before the pushing part, that is what she told me. That if we consider that pushing, that was the that was what she told me. And she told me, okay, count to 3. So during that time, she wasn't going in hard, push. And that also speaks to her and how she handles things in her profession, because in Tobago, their system of birthing is totally different, and they do things a lot differently from the hospitals in Trinidad. Because she was kind of taken aback from some of the things she witnessed in Mount Hope. So, yeah. And I reached a point where I was like, just now, started bawling at everybody. I was like, what are you doing? Stop digging up in my vagina. I was just saying the most. I was like, everybody shut up, turn off this TV. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And my partner had his hand, I don't know how his hand ended up across me, but I was able to use it as a leverage. As let's say you're holding on to a tree to pull up. So I used his hand and I pulled myself up, and I was able to give some good pushes. And after a couple, when I was like, okay, no, I need to take a break. My vagina not feeling like mine. It's on fire. What are you talking about? I needed to take a break. She's like, no, the baby right there. We could see her. So she's like, all right, take your breath. When you feel the pain, I need you to use this pain. You have to use the pain and push with the with the contractions. So on that final pain that I got, I pulled up and I pushed, and I cut to a point and I was like, all right, wait. And I started pushing everybody's hand away, and my partner now had to pull my hand back because he's like, no, baby, the baby head literally out. That is why it was sitting. I was like, what? That sounded like nothing. That was the song I made. I was like, oh, wait, stop, what are you doing? And Yeninga was here. And I realized that was that transition, ring of fire, everything in one. She was here. And I did have planned to do delay cord clamping. But again, my aunt being in the medical profession for 25 plus years, she had umbilical cord clamps in her pocket. As she hopped on the plane, she said she put some in her pocket, and watching back on the video, I saw when Yeninga came out, she clamped the cord, so there wasn't any much delayed cord clamping. So I made a note that going through for my second pregnancy, my second time around, I definitely going to change certain things. But all in all, I did have an amazing experience. I had an amazing first experience because that was my point. I did not want to have a redemption date. I didn't see why I had to wait on my second time around to do it this way. It just didn't make sense to me. Yes, it's uncharted waters, but who used to help the ancestors, boy? Who was there? Who there in them remote villages where Western medication are reaching and children still being born every day? Who was there when the two little boys in Trinidad and Tobago, this made news actually, who was there for these two little boys who birthed their sister 10 and 9, birthed their own sister home with the mother? Who was there to help them? Who was there to help the socially displaced woman at the side of the road who birthed her baby sitting at the side of the road? So if these women could do it, who am I, and why must I have a redemption date? Why? I didn't see it, and that was also that mindset going into that. So,
but just making that decision as a first-time mother is a very empowering thing to do. Like, it takes a lot of courage and bravery to go against a social norm that is so set in fear in our society and many societies, for a young mother, first-time mother, to just say, you know what, I am taking it into my hands, I'm arming myself with information, and I'm going to do this myself. Like, it's a really courageous thing and a very important thing that you did for your child.
Yeah, correct, because I think it is a lot of children won't be able to say I was born the same place I was conceived.
Yeah.
How many children we know could say that, and that within itself is empowering? How many children could say, I can't even say that?
Me neither.
I can't say that, and that was something that I wanted to give to my daughter, because as we rightfully say, it is empowering, and we have to equip our picnics with all the tools necessary to win in this world, because this world definitely is built against us. It's built for most of us that look like me and you to feel. So that was one of the reasons that I did want to home birth. And going forward, I have no intentions of ever going into the system. I did go to the hospital after I
How long did your placenta come out right away? Did you have to wait for your placenta?
All right, so we took 26 minutes from water bag to her birthing was about 26 minutes, and getting up off the bed. And as I was getting up off the bed, I say, something coming out of my pum pum. Those exactly. Sorry to sound so crass, but that's what I said. And she's like, okay, the placenta coming real quick, boy. And before I could even try to catch it, it just plopped down on my carpet.
Very good.
Yeah, so, and that is something I also wanted to highlight, that within the system, they tell us that our placenta is medical waste. How can an organ that I grew this organ within my body to sustain my picnic, and I want my organ back. So whether it's to plant it, to dehydrate it, to eat it, what I want my organ back, you telling me is medical waste. And if
you can't get it at the hospital. You have to, yes, if you
have to ask, and it should not be, you have to ask. It is all, they should ask you, do you want to clip your placenta, as opposed to just be considering or label medical waste and automatically try. Like when I went into the hospital, because I had to go with my placenta. So that they wanted to see it, and they documented saying that, born before, BOB, that's the term if you have had a baby before, go born before arrival. And I remember being checked out, and they wheeling my placenta away, and I was very adamant. I was like, nurse, go and run down that nurse and tell her I want my placenta, please. I told all the nurses, I was so adamant, I want my placenta. I say, matter of fact, my partner coming back now. Bring it back so he can take it. It's not staying with me in the hospital. He taking it to go, because I felt as if I wasn't that vigilant, I would have had to deal with some kind of sad story. And that would have infuriated me, because I had plans for my placenta.
It's suggested that they use the placenta for medical research and for making, using it for stem cells and different things. So they may say it's medical waste, but we don't really know what they're doing with it. And you're very right. You're very right to advocate for yourself and to speak up and to say, okay, this is what I want, this is mine, because it is yours. It is yours, right? It is yours. You shouldn't have any problems to get it, because it is yours.
Yeah. So that was that. Just being.
So you went to the hospital. So you went to the hospital after your placenta released.
Yes.
You decided to go to the hospital.
Yes.
Did you call an ambulance, or you all drove?
No, we drove.
Okay. And how did they receive you?
Close proximity to Mount Hope, which was also a part of the birthing plan, just being in that close proximity. They received me well, because I came equipped with certain medical terms and jargon. Give thanks to my auntie, things that they were asking that most mamas who birth outside of the system didn't know. My aunt was able to equip me with it, and to tell them how much blood loss. They were asking questions, how much blood loss did you have, and these things. And because she's in the medical field, she gave me the numbers to give them, because she would have witnessed it, and so I was able to give them that. And
so you told them that there was a midwife with you?
Yes, I told them that not that there was a midwife, that I had a midwife there, that my aunt was with me, and so I had to let them know that this just happened quickly. This not that something that I planned, that this happened on the whim, and we just had to do it home and then come. So I told them my aunt was with me laboring, and because it was happening so quickly, she had to intervene, and she is also a midwife of
20 years.
So not that
Can't forget the 20 years. Can't forget the 20 years.
They like to put in that. You have to get under respect. What you could do again, girl? So and they received well, and it was at that point I started noticing, okay, if I had come to birth my baby in this hospital, I would not have had this experience. Because first thing that rubbed me the wrong way, the nurse came to give me an examination, and she told me that I had a tear. I asked her how big it was, because from my research there are certain size of tears that can heal naturally, that you don't doesn't require stitches. So I asked her how big it was and if it can heal naturally. And obviously she said no, it was 4 centimeters long. And then she started doing this boom massage, like she pulled these big blood clots out of me. I can't even remember the term that she used or what she called it, but that hurt. And then as she was doing that, it was putting pressure on my vaginal wall that just went through that trauma. So me now saying, ouch, ouch, was when she said, and you take the penis, you can't take the skin. That irritated me. Because where is the empathy, mother, sister, African woman? Where is the empathy? I could be your daughter. I could be you. I am you. And I just push a whole baby through. Yes. Well, why is it that we put pleasure and pain in the same sentence for women? That's like somebody telling me, if a man raping you, you need to try to enjoy it. That kind of crazy thinking that I am pain, but because I could take a penis, I should be able to take this pain. That irrational thinking just irritated me. So that was one thing I know there, and that was as I went in to the hospital to get, and checked out. So that was strike one. Strike two, I was telling them, don't bathe my baby. I don't want all the vernix removed from her skin. If you want damper, yes, you could dress her. I had instructions written on a bag inside my baby bag. So I had like, okay, don't do so and so, don't touch, don't do this, don't do that, don't do the other, don't bathe her, don't remove the vernix. I had a list of the clothes and different things that I had in my bag. So I had a lot of do's just right there as they opened the bag. It had a paper resting on top there with all the.
Did they respect your wishes?
Oh yes. Oh yes. And I think it had to do as well with my spiritual practice. I don't know why when we practice our African tradition, it is seen as something it is received in a fearful manner.
Right.
For lack of a better term. So my aunt told me afterwards, like some weeks afterwards, that they were saying, yeah, she worship placenta. Then I think she called my Baptist, and then just do thing with the thing. So hearing that, I realized it was received from, because obviously how I present. I present as a proud African woman living here in Trinidad and Tobago, very, very proud of my roots and my culture. So off the bat, they just assumed that I was a Baptist, and they started all these things that, them Baptists do things and things. So they did respect my wishes. So I was transferred to the ward, and I was placed in a room with 2 goddesses. One, it ended up with the room ended up with 5 of us, and 4 out of the 5 of us was born before arrival. One goddess, she came in labor, and they told her, nah, in these exact words, nah, you early, go back home. And they sent her back home, and she said as she reached home, the baby just came out of her in the gallery, and she had to come back. And she wasn't prepared for that, because obviously no research, no anything, because she was going into the system, So to her, the system kind of failed her. Okay. To her, there was an ex-lady who didn't know she was pregnant, and baby just came just like that. And the one that stood out to me, and it made me be like, wow, the mothers of this hospital become so, they normalize giving birth, like the beauty of it, the respect that needs to be shown to just the process of bringing forth a life, and to the person bringing forth a life is removed, because they're seeing it every day. So this this little girl, I will say she was 18, and apparently, based on her account, she said that the nurse told her while she was birthing, "You get in trouble, you get in trouble, I will cut you." I said, "What?" That's the exact words she used. She said, "Yeah," she told me, and you're not pushing correct, you're giving trouble, I will cut you." So I said, "Did she tell you or explain to you what she meant by you pushing wrong?" She said, "No, she just told me I giving trouble because she was real screaming." And she said she was doing the most according to her. And the nurse told her that she giving trouble, I will cut you. And the nurse cut her from vagina hole to rectum.
Oh my.
So now this little 18-year-old have this big scar between her leg, and she walking and have to heal from that. Who will want to go on? That's why we have women saying, "Nah, I good with one."
Yeah.
So we are building queendoms again because we good with one, because our system make baby making or giving birth this crass experience. And do you know now, right now in the media, that there's something going around that they want to take away the term mothers and replace it with birthing people? Yeah.
Let's not get into that, ma, because oh boy, that is.
Yeah.
But so you overnighted? Did they release you right away? How long did you stay in the hospital?
They kept me for the stipulated amount of time, which was anybody coming in with, giving birth before arrival, once there is no complications based on their accords, which I know there wasn't going to be, because I also had a blood test kit home. So I knew that my daughter wasn't jaundice, because based on my research with jaundice appears in babies who have a different blood type from both parents.
That is not the only way that they have jaundice.
Really? Well,
yes, there are other ways for jaundice to occur. Yeah.
Well, my little ignorant mind at that time thought that was the only way.
No, and that's not the only way.
I will have to go back to the board, but at that time in my head, that was the only way. And I knew my picnic had no jaundice because I did have blood tests and all of these things. So when we went into the hospital, they did reiterate the same thing I was thinking. She had no jaundice. She was good. I was good. I had no internal bleeding. I just had the tear, and they wanted to, we both had different doctors, so they wanted to make sure she passed stool and pee before they released. And even with that, I did research in terms of speaking to different nurses in the hospital, asking what is the procedure after a baby is born. Okay, they say the baby needs to pee, and if the baby does not pee, pass stool or urine, what is the stipulated amount of time they're looking at before they decide to intervene? So she was telling me that by, is it 24 hours? Probably like by 2 days or something, if the baby it's a couple hours, well, they will intervene and give the baby glycerin.
Okay.
To pass through.
So they released you all after the stipulated time, and now you all are back home, and postpartum has started. The fourth trimester has started. How did your early postpartum look for you?
My early postpartum was it was a point of regression, in the sense that I was no longer pregnant and my body has expanded, and it does not look as like the body that I once knew. And that was triggering to me. So my daughter came in December. By January, I had gained an additional 14 pounds on top of the weight that I gained through birth. So in total, I gained somewhat like 60 pounds. And by the time January hit, I was heading into, we tend to think that postpartum depression could only affect certain people and people who we presume to be strong-minded. It can't attack them. No. Postpartum depression is a Jim Screechy. They will come and denied by anybody. By anybody, and it is very sneaky. You wouldn't even realize you are heading into that hole if you are not aware, if you're not paying attention to self. So I knew that one of the reasons I was heading into, not one of the main reason I was heading that way was because of my weight gain. And now there wasn't the comfort of knowing that this is not fat, that this is a baby. Now it was just fat. And I was already going through stress with not being able to produce milk the way I wanted to. So my fourth trimester started off, it was so stressful. I was extremely stressed out over and I'm thinking about it, and tears want to well up in my eye. That's how it was so frustrating. I felt like my body was failing me, that I cannot produce enough milk to sustain my daughter. So I had to turn to my tribe, which was my cousin. Like, I had 2 cousins who had babies before, and I had to get some breast milk from my cousin to feed my daughter. So all of that.
And that is okay.
That was okay. No, that was
that okay. That is okay. You know, it doesn't take away from what you did, the gift that you gave to your daughter, and what it is brought into the world. But we need to stop like this whole idea of breastfeeding and being aligned with, who is the best mother and that kind of thing. Like, we need to kind of ease up on that, because I think it puts a lot of women in some kind of places mentally when we think that, okay, the mark of a mother is her ability to breastfeed.
Again, a little emotional. Sorry. No, true.
It's okay.
Breastfeeding, really. And still to this day, that breastfeeding journey brings a sense of guilt over me, because I want to get self right. And because I am on that path, it is affecting my ability to breastfeed. So now I'm in between a wall and a hard place of wanting to be right for self so that I can be right for my daughter, but also giving my daughter that gift of breast milk.
You've given her other gifts, sir?
I know, but it just feels as, sometimes we allow the bad to outweigh the good.
Yes.
I think that is definitely happening in my case. So even my sister-in-law the other day, she was like, Adafih, you are so hard on yourself. You are extremely, extremely hard on yourself, especially with weight loss and this breastfeeding and just being the best version of self for my daughter. Nobody could have prepared. I had a beautiful, beautiful pregnancy, beautiful delivery, but nobody could. We don't speak about this 4th trimester enough.
Yeah, I agree. And the real work, pregnancy is it's a lot. Pregnancy, the birthing process, all of that is a lot, but people tend to disregard that the real work starts when the baby gets here.
All right.
That's when the real work starts, because it doesn't have a 9-month period for it to all be over. Like, this is a year, how much ever years of work that has to go into parenting after. So I agree, we need to spend more time speaking about the postpartum period, the 4th trimester, and giving parents more support in coming to terms with what is to come in that time, because you really don't know how much your life is going to change and all the different things that are going to be affecting your like body and if you're good enough, if you're doing enough, if you're really taking care of your child, if your child okay, like there are so many things that comes up that could be really mentally and emotionally challenging after the whole pregnancy and birth.
Yeah.
So we need to have more conversations around it.
I actually describe, like, everybody asks me, how is motherhood? I always tell them that, is beautiful, but it's definitely a culture shock. That's the best description that I could give it. That is a culture shock, because everything, even the things that you wouldn't even think change. And something that I wasn't even thinking, like, for instance, I am very, very big on emancipation, and I go all out for emancipation, and the fact that we are having the parade this year, coming out of the COVID period, would have been a very exciting time in my life prior to pregnancy. And I have different people from within my tribe, my friends circle, reaching out saying, oh, I can't wait to see her, I can't wait to this. And now I have to tell them, like, I am so exhausted. So tired, I don't have the energy to put into that process. What I could normally put into, I don't have the energy. I have to skip emancipation this year. The way I do it, I have to skip it this year. And even that brings me some sort of, there's some sort of sad feeling. But
which is understandable. It is understandable. But you can find comfort in the fact that what emancipation is really about. The essence of it. You just giving birth to your daughter in that way that is you. That's a celebration of emancipation on its own, for not only you but for your daughter and for your partner. So the real essence of it, you are already like in tune with that. You're already aligned with it and beating that drum. So it's understandable that you're feeling, this is something that you're used to, you want to sing, you want to go out there and dress up and, right? But in actuality, you are carrying emancipation with you all the time based on what it is you're trying to do for yourself and for your family.
I want to give thanks for you bringing forth that perspective. A lot of times we tend to see things from one skewed lens, and that's the lens that works with the story that we want to play in our head, and we don't tend to venture outside to look at things in a different perspective. And it what you just said there it holds so much weight that you're right. What I did is what we did, and what women who did what we did. That is the true essence of emancipation. And that goes back to a point that I wanted to raise. Our society has us feeling as childbirth is just, you get birth and one.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, that's how I felt. Like I had to come to terms with the fact that I was big, and I felt like, why my knees are still hurting 2 months done pass. I realized, like, dread. So I am socialized to think like this. This is conditioning.
Yes, it is. Definitely is.
I gave birth, and my knees feeling weak 2 months after, and in my head I should be able to get up and exercise and that was because society puts it on us women that giving birth is nothing.
Yeah, you just do it and you just continue on with your life, like, So yeah, and thank you for raising that point. That is very important. I would like to, we'll have to end it here because I know you and we could go on and on and on and on.
Yes. So this experience, and
thank you
to all the birthing mamas out there who would be listening to this podcast, I invite you to welcome and to embrace the power that is within you. You have the ability to do anything. Our bodies are designed by nature. Our bodies are designed to give birth. And if our bodies are designed to give birth like that, that means a birthing process is not a medical intervention.
Yes,
which means you can do it. You could do it home. So I want to hear more birthing mama stories.
Of course, we're bringing it. So thank you very much, Adafih, for sharing your story with us. Thank you for being so open and honest and, giving us a little insight into your very exciting experience that you had. And we appreciate it. Thank you.
You're so welcome. And thank you for having me. It is truly an amazing and empowering experience to just speak about it, even because we just say sometimes it's not something you go and boast about, like, hey, I make my baby home, I make my baby home, I make myself, and so it just comes as if you just do something, a normal thing. So it is power in speaking it. So thanks for giving me that opportunity. Truly appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.